Before Harris could formulate a response, Rex suddenly exploded into action again. This time, he didn't lunge at the prosecutor. Instead, with a burst of surprising strength for his age, he wrenched free from the guard's grip and bolted, not toward Harris, but toward the black SUV parked at the gates. The guards were caught completely off guard. By the time they realized what was happening, Rex had reached the vehicle. He immediately began attacking the rear of the SUV with frantic intensity. His claws scraped desperately at the trunk door, leaving long scratches in the expensive paint. He barked with urgent, almost desperate persistence, a sound I'd never heard from him before. He grabbed the bumper in his teeth, pulling and shaking it, trying to get at something inside. "There's something in that trunk," I yelled. "Rex has found something. You have to check that car." Harris's face went from gray to ash white. He lunged toward the SUV, shouting frantically, "That's private property. You can't search my vehicle without a warrant. This is illegal." But Warden Thompson was already striding toward the car with grim determination, his hand moving to the service weapon at his belt.
"This vehicle is parked on state prison property," Thompson said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "That makes it subject to search under my jurisdiction as warden. You have two choices, Mr. Harris. Open that trunk immediately, or I will have my officers force it open. Your choice. 5 seconds." Harris's hands shook violently as he fumbled for his key fob. For a moment, I thought he might refuse, might force a confrontation, but he pressed the button. The trunk lid rose with a soft hydraulic hiss. Inside were 2 large, expensive leather suitcases and several designer duffel bags, the kind of luggage you'd take on an extended international trip. One of the guards whistled low. "That's a lot of bags, Mr. Prosecutor. Going somewhere special?" Harris tried to compose himself, but his voice cracked. "I'm taking a vacation. After this case is finally concluded, I'm flying to Europe tonight. These are just my personal belongings, clothes, toiletries, nothing illegal about travel." But Rex wasn't finished. The old German shepherd leaped into the trunk with surprising agility, his nose working frantically across the suitcases. He sniffed each bag with intense focus, then suddenly locked onto one particular leather duffel. Rex grabbed the side pocket of the bag in his teeth and pulled with all his remaining strength. The expensive leather tore with a ripping sound. "Get that damn dog out of there!" Harris lunged forward, but 2 guards immediately grabbed his arms, holding him back. Rex worked his muzzle into the torn pocket and pulled out something small and metallic. It flew from his mouth and clattered across the concrete, landing directly at Warden Thompson's feet. Thompson bent down and picked it up carefully. It was a silver locket on a delicate chain, antique, tarnished slightly with age, but still beautiful. Thompson opened the locket's clasp with careful fingers. His face changed as he looked at what was inside. I couldn't breathe. I knew that locket. I knew it. Thompson turned toward me, holding the locket where I could see it. Inside was a tiny photograph, faded but still clear enough. My wife's smiling face looked back at me, young, happy, beautiful. The photo I had taken on our honeymoon. "That's hers," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I gave her that locket for our 5th wedding anniversary. It disappeared the night of the murder. The police searched everywhere for it. They thought the killer had taken it, pawned it somewhere. They never found it." Thompson turned slowly toward Harris, holding the locket in his open palm like a piece of damning evidence in a courtroom. "Mr. Prosecutor," Thompson's voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. "During the original investigation, you personally told the jury that the killer had stolen all valuables from the victim and sold them. You handled that entire aspect of the case. So I need you to explain something to me. How did the victim's personal locket, a piece of jewelry that disappeared the night she died, end up in your luggage 7 years later? Why did you keep it? And why, on this specific day, the day of this man's execution, did you decide to take it with you on your flight to Europe?" I watched John Harris collapse before my eyes. Not physically, he remained standing,
but something inside him shattered. His shoulders sagged, his arms hung limp and defeated. The confident prosecutor who had condemned me 7 years ago simply broke. When he raised his head to look at me, there was a strange mixture in his eyes. Hatred, yes, but also despair and something almost like relief. As if he'd been carrying an unbearable weight for 7 years and was finally ready to set it down. His voice came out as a broken scream. "She didn't deserve you, a worthless, ordinary man with no ambition. I loved her since we were in university together. I offered her everything, my career, my money, my position in society, and she chose you, an engineer making a mediocre salary. Do you know what that did to me? To be rejected for someone so ordinary?" Harris's voice dropped lower, but it lost none of its intensity. Now he seemed to be talking more to himself than to any of us, reliving that terrible night. "She laughed at me," he continued, his words spilling out in a rush. "When I told her I loved her, when I begged her to leave you and be with me, she actually laughed. She said nothing had ever happened between us, that I had imagined some connection that never existed, that she found me disgusting. That's the word she used. Disgusting." He fell silent for a moment, breathing heavily, then continued more quietly. "I went to your house that evening when I knew you'd be working late. I just wanted to talk to her one final time, to make her understand how much I could give her, how much better her life would be with me. But she refused. Again, she said she had never loved me and never would, that she wanted me to leave her alone forever, that if I didn't stop, she'd tell you everything and get a restraining order." His voice cracked. "I don't remember exactly how it happened. I only remember the rage, the absolute fury. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen table. She screamed, tried to run, and then," he swallowed hard, "and then that damned dog appeared out of nowhere, attacked me, bit down on my arm and wouldn't let go. I barely fought him off, grabbed something heavy, a cast iron pan, and hit him as hard as I could. I thought I'd killed him. He dropped and didn't move. I grabbed what I could and ran. I was sure he died of his wounds in the woods. When he turned up alive at the police station covered in blood, I nearly had a heart attack. But then the blood came back as your wife's, and everyone assumed he'd witnessed you kill her. It was perfect. The universe was handing me the solution." 2 guards moved forward immediately, producing handcuffs. Harris didn't resist as they secured his wrists behind his back. He looked almost relieved that it was finally over. Warden Thompson was already on his phone, speaking rapidly. "I need immediate contact with the State Attorney General's office and the Governor's office. Emergency stay of execution. New evidence in the Henderson case. Yes, a full confession from the original prosecutor. I need this man's execution stopped immediately and a full case review initiated within the hour." Everything after that happened with surreal speed, like watching events unfold behind glass, distant and dreamlike. Phone calls were made, orders were given. Police arrived to transport Harris to county jail. The Attorney General himself called Thompson's phone, speaking to me personally, apologizing in a shaking voice for the catastrophic failure of justice. 3 hours later, I stood at the prison gates as they swung open, not as a condemned man being led to execution, but as a free man walking into the sunlight. An emergency judicial order based on Harris's confession and the newly discovered evidence had overturned my conviction and declared me fully exonerated with complete rehabilitation of my name. 20 minutes later, Rex and I stood before a simple gray headstone in a quiet corner of the cemetery. Her name was carved into the stone, along with the dates that had framed her too short life. I placed a bouquet of white roses, purchased from a street vendor during our drive, gently on the grass before the headstone. My hand trembled as I touched the cold stone. "We won, sweetheart," I said softly. "Rex found your killer. After 7 years, justice has finally been served. I'm so sorry it took this long."
I'm sorry I couldn't save you. But we never gave up. Rex never forgot. And now the truth is known. Rex sat down beside me on the damp cemetery grass, resting his gray muzzle on my knee. We sat together in silence, two survivors, two who had loved her with all our hearts and had fought for 7 years to honor her memory. A cold autumn wind rustled through the cemetery trees, sending leaves skittling across the ground. But I didn't feel cold anymore. I was free. I was vindicated. My wife's real killer would face justice, and my most loyal friend, my truest companion, sat beside me.